Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're just about to get started. Before we do, I would like to let those joining know that today we will be speaking in both French and English. So there is live interpretation to switch between your preferred language or languages. To do so, please click on the three-dot button on the bottom right side of your screen and go to interpretation, which will allow you to toggle between the two. So we'll be starting today in English. And with that, I will kick us off and extend a very warm welcome. My name is Edwina McKechnie, and I lead corporate engagement for Emergent, which is a nonprofit focused on mobilizing the finance needed to halt and reverse tropical deforestation by 2030. We do this by catalyzing a new market for jurisdictional scale forest carbon credits, connecting the private sector to forest country governments that are generating emissions reductions and removals at scale from their forest preservation efforts, either at national or large subnational scale. So today, together with my colleague Eric Parfait-Osomba, we are very delighted and privileged to bring together an excellent panel today, representatives from the Côte d'Ivoire and the World Bank to share the incredible work that they are doing to preserve some of the most rich tropical forests in the world through a series of programs to reduce deforestation, restore degraded forests across 4.6 million hectares of forest and cocoa producing landscapes. So these efforts under the World Bank's FCPF program, which we'll hear a little bit about in a moment, have generated a large volume of emissions reductions and removals credits from the years 2022 and 2023, well in excess of what was originally targeted by the World Bank's results-based payments program. So Emergent, together with our corporate partners, such as Amazon, who we will also hear from today, are supporting Côte d'Ivoire to commercialize these excess credits through an agreement signed at COP30 in Brazil last year. And this agreement offers readily available emissions reductions and removals credits to the private sectors and has potential to secure an additional 23 million in climate finance to both help sustain and to scale Côte d'Ivoire's forest programs and the local communities that are at the front lines of this work. So we're really pleased to welcome you here today. If you're a company or an organization looking to procure high integrity forest carbon credits as part of your climate strategy or support your sustainable supply chain efforts in commodity sourcing, landscapes, or simply contribute to scaled impact for climate, nature, and people, you have certainly come to the right place. So we're really excited to have this conversation today. So I'm going to turn to some brief logistics for the call. I'm going to kindly ask for my colleagues to launch a live poll. We're keen to get a sense of who is in the virtual room. It's here in English and in French. So essentially, let us know how your company or organization is engaging in forest protection programs. Are you starting out? Are you in the planning mode? Or are you actively engaged in investing? And while you're answering that, just to let you know the format of today's session, we will start with a video recording hot off the press from yesterday from His Excellency Minister Abu Bamba from Côte d'Ivoire's Environment and Ecological Transition Ministry. And then we'll turn to a panel facilitated by Eric in both English and French with translation. Please feel free to share your questions in the Q&A box as we go. We'll be monitoring those and then come to answering some of those in the last segment of the webinar. And of course, the conversation doesn't stop here. We welcome to continue the conversation if we don't get to all the questions. So let's see who is in the room. If we could close the poll, please. There we go. And it looks like we've got a good range of folks in the audience, those that are at the early stages of their journey, curious to know about the work of Côte d'Ivoire, those that are in the planning and of course in the active investment space. So really good cross representation there. Okay, well with that, let's get started.
Thank you, Duna. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for this exciting conversation on Côte d'Ivoire. So today we have an exciting, lineup of expert, but also community representatives that are going to walk us through the amazing work that Côte d'Ivoire has been doing for the past 5 years. And before jumping into the panel, I think just as a reminder, there's a button below where you can see interpretation. So if you want to listen in French, you can just click on it and then choose the language that you're more comfortable. So if you want to listen in French, you can just click on French. And if it's English, then please just click on it. So I'll be switching back and forth in English and French just to make sure that all our panelists are comfortable with the language that they are. So um, as I said, we have a very exciting, lineup for this conversation. First of all, we have Diana Musa, who joined us from the World Bank. Dania is she's a carbon finance specialist. She's been working at the World Bank for over a decade now on environment, natural resources, and voluntary carbon market. Um, in addition to Dania, we also have Eric Conan, who is actually the mastermind behind the program that we are going to be discussing today, the emission reduction payment program around the Taï National Park. And Eric has been working very closely with local communities to ensure that they can actually benefit directly from the effort that they are doing on the ground. Eric has over 14 years of professional experience on Red Plus, and he's been supporting and leading, the Red Plus process in Cote d'Ivoire, but also in other African countries. And then, in addition to Eric, we have Dr. Fanny Ngolo, who is the executive director of the Foundation for the Park and Reserve of Cote d'Ivoire. Dr. Ngolo is a veterinary doctor and ecologist, and he's been working for over 25 years on conservation, natural resource management, and biodiversity. And he's been leading a number of projects that are supported by the World Bank. And he is the executive director of the Foundation for the Park and Reserve of Cote d'Ivoire, who is actually the implementing entity of the FCPF program in Cote d'Ivoire. And then in addition to Dr. Ngolo, we also have, I call her Mama Rose Ahu, who is the president of the Village um, Women Association of Akagi in the San Pedro region, which is close to the Taï National Park. And she's been involved into agroforestry activities. So she'll walk us through what she's been doing with a group of women she's working with. And then last but not the least, Jamie Mulligan, who is the head of carbon neutralization, science and strategy at Amazon. Jamie has been leading Amazon investment in global climate mitigation as outside of the Amazon, supply chain. And Jimmy and his team has been setting quality standard when it comes to the procurement of carbon credits. So yeah, we have an exciting, lineup, as I said. So before diving into the very specific of the emission reduction program, I think it'd be good to just get from Dania to help us, set the scene in terms of the FCPF, what the program has been able to achieve so far, and how the program has been really helping countries, to reduce, deforestation and carbon emission. And also, Danielle would help us to walk through what the FCPF program has been doing in supporting countries to transition to carbon market mechanism. And lastly, and not the least, I think she will also help us to understand how the program is ensuring that every single jurisdiction program is actually done or carried out with high level integrity, which I think it's of a lot of people interest. So, Dania, over to you to start with setting the scene in terms of the FCPF program. Over.
Thank you very much, Eric. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dania Mosa, and I work with the World Bank's Forest Carbon Partnership Facility at the World Bank. As Eric mentioned, I'll give an overview of the FCPF, its jurisdictional approach, dive into integrity questions, and mention how we are supporting governments to transition to other standards such as R3s. Next, please. So the FCPF is a World Bank managed multi-stakeholder initiative established in 2008 to support the development of national REDD+ frameworks. So through its Readiness Fund, which is the preparation phase, it provided financial and technical support to 47 countries, and under its Carbon Fund, which is the implementation and results-based payment phase, it's supported the development of the first generation of large-scale government-led jurisdictional REDD+ programs. So under this Carbon Fund, we have 15 jurisdictional programs covering about 111 million hectares, which is the size of Germany, France, and the UK combined. So, and then under these programs, around 95 million FCPF credits have been issued so far, 74 million of which have been paid by the FCPF Carbon Fund. So these payments have led to the payment of $372.5 million in verified emission reductions, benefiting over 340,000 people, receiving monetary and non-monetary carbon benefits. So this proof of concept by partner governments show markets that they have ambitious programs that generate high integrity credits at scale and that enable communities to benefit and improve their livelihoods. So 1.8 billion have been crowded in upfront investments to generate emission reductions, and today there are additional 21 to 33 million FCPF credits available to buyers. Next, please. Here we can see a map with the 15 countries supported by the FCPF Carbon Fund. And these are government programs that are at large jurisdictional scale. This means that they have large government-defined territory. For example, it's the whole country of Costa Rica, and in DRC, it's a whole province of Maindombe. And that is quite a big area. It's equivalent to 1/4 of France. So in terms of the jurisdictional approach, that means that everything is done under one policy, one accounting framework, rather than patchwork of individual projects that could limit scaled impacts and entail some leakage issues. This is one of the advantages of the jurisdictional approach. If we take Côte d'Ivoire as an example, its FCPF emission reductions program is a jurisdictional program that covers 5 regions in the Southwest Cocoa Belt, and those 5 regions together, they form the program jurisdiction. So the government sets the boundary, defines a single baseline, runs one monitoring and MRV system that accounts emissions across the whole landscape, and applies one set of policies, safeguards, one benefit sharing plan across the entire 4.6 million hectare area, including the Taï National Park, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that you will hear more about from my government colleagues today on the panel. So the important part is this jurisdictional approach means that we're not dealing with scattered projects, but we're looking at a coherent government-led program with one set of rules and one system that accounts for all emissions occurring within that area. Next, please. So the FCPF standard is the World Bank's first jurisdictional carbon standard that enables the generation of high integrity credits at scale. It has been approved by CORSIA pilots and phase 1, demonstrating the high environmental and social integrity of emission reduction credits generated. And as I mentioned, the jurisdictional approach tackles the real drivers of deforestation across the whole area, using one government-led program, one MRV system integrated into the National Forest Monitoring System, reduces risk of double counting, and ensures that potential leakage from specific interventions is accounted, and allows the benefit sharing and safeguards at scale. It also has all the elements required to high integrity crediting standard, which is permanence. So these are the projects are not, as I mentioned, not short-term and standalone, but long-term government programs designed in accordance to the standard to ensure that they are durable emission reduction credits. So any residual risk of reversals is addressed through a pooled buffer managed by the World Bank that has more than 35 million emission reductions, which is 1/3 of total issuances sourced from a diversified portfolio to limit these any risks. In terms of addressing risks of leakage, we're working at a large-scale jurisdictional. So this means any potential displacement caused by interventions would occur within the same jurisdiction, and it would minimize the leakage. And since it's on one area, then there is monitoring in terms of any changes and drivers to address it. And then, as I mentioned, there is the environmental and social safeguards. The governments have to apply the World Bank's environmental and social framework to each of the program, and to produce adequate policy documents and ensure meaningful participation of indigenous peoples, local communities, civil society, and put in place grievance redress mechanisms, and ensure transparent and benefit sharing arrangements are in place. Next, please. And I hear that I have only 1 minute left, so I'm going to try to wrap up. So the benefit sharing aspect is very important. It's part of the FCPF standard. 70 to 80% of emission reductions payments are directed to local communities. So we have here some examples. This means that 50,000 jobs have been generated in Guatemala thanks to these programs. Thousands in Vietnam from forest patrolling. In Cote d'Ivoire, you'll hear about it, financial inclusion through mobile money, which led to the development of ID cards for local communities who didn't have ID cards. Increased incomes in Ghana with raised yields and farmer incomes. Next, please. So here wanted to talk about how we are supporting access to carbon finance. So for example, Cote d'Ivoire has put in place the RED Plus infrastructure required by high integrity supply with the government-led program, the MRV system, jurisdictional baseline safeguards, etc. So this is the proof of concept helping them de-risk and step into the market. Since the government has already proven that it can deliver. Next. So in terms of the transition, this is the last slide. Now that we have a proven concept, it is important that the programs can continue to generate credits beyond their last reporting periods. Most of them finish in 2024. So now we are supporting governments to transition to other standards such as R3s. So the World Bank is supporting through mobilizing funding. For example, over 15 million has been mobilized through the FCPF and other funds to support country transition. In Cote d'Ivoire, we have mobilized $3 million to help them transition to our trees. We are already developing with them analytics that are required to transfer to art and can help them continue issuing high integrity credits beyond the FCPF ER program. And just the last one with the QR codes. Here you can scan those codes and go directly to the programs that you are interested in. And earlier in the slide, there was also a QR code to the FCPF standards. So you can find all the information through these QR codes. And we are available, of course, to answer any questions and share. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Dania, for that excellent presentation, which really set the scenes. Now, please, if you are listening in English, I would suggest that you turn the English because I will switch into French to allow our colleagues from Côte d'Ivoire to dive into the very specific of Côte d'Ivoire. Donc, merci beaucoup, Dania.
Thank you very much, Dania, once again for your presentation. You have given us a lot of important context about the FCPF, and now we're going to get into the heart of the subject and talk in detail about the project we're discussing in this webinar today, and also what is being done on the ground. So I would like to first ask Eric Conon to give a short presentation. Eric, are you there? Yes.
Okay, Eric, très rapidement,
Eric, very quickly, can you tell us about the PRE program, the subject of this webinar, the different activities you're doing, and also some of the results you've seen or the impacts you've seen on the ground? And then I would also ask you to tell us more or less how you work with communities on a day-to-day basis to have arrived where you are today with the program.
Merci Eric.
Yes,
Que vous voyez mon
thank you,
écran.
Eric. I hope that you all can see my screen.
Tout à fait.
Yes, we can.
Ok. Alors, donc, je vais vous présenter à la
I
suite
would
de
like
Dania quelques
to
activités
follow on
pour
from what Dania said
peut-être
and
réduction
present
des
a few
émissions de
different
gaz à effet de serre autour
activities
du parc
that
national de Taï.
we are doing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions
Le projet PRE en Côte
in the
d'Ivoire, c'est
country.
un projet
Our project
qui est mis en œuvre dans le cadre d'un
is
contrat
being
d'achat qui a été signé avec
implemented
le
through
Banque
4
mondiale
different
depuis 2010.
contracts that we signed
Pour
with the
une
World
période
Bank
de crédit
over the
de
last several
4 ans
years.
et qui a pour objectif
And the
donc
goal
donc qui est mis en œuvre dans 5 régions. Donc
is
c'est une
to
approche
implement these projects
juridictionnelle
across
et donc le
5
programme il est mis en œuvre dans
regions,
5 régions
and that's the
administratives autour du parc
jurisdictional
national de
aspect.
Taï.
And this
Parc
includes
national de
Taï
Taï qui est le
National
plus
Park,
grand massif
which
forestier
is the
primaire
largest
d'Afrique de l'Ouest et
remaining area of
patrimoine mondial
primary
de
forest in
l'UNESCO.
West Africa and
Et
is also a
l'objectif,
UNESCO World Heritage
c'est
Site.
vraiment
Our goal
d'arriver
is to
coordonner l'ensemble des
better
initiatives
coordinate
des acteurs qui interviennent dans la
different
zone du programme
initiatives
pour
in the
réduire
project
leur
area
impact sur les forêts,
to make
notamment
sure
le
that
parc
their
de
impact
Taï et les
on
forêts
forests,
naturelles
especially on the
qui sont en
forests
place,
in Taï
en
National
vue
Park,
de réduire les émissions de gaz à
will
effet de
help
serre,
reduce
à la déforestation et à la dégradation
greenhouse
des
gas emissions
forêts
associated
dans
with
ces zones-là.
deforestation in this
Et
area.
en termes donc d'objectifs
In
secondaires,
terms of
c'est
secondary
d'arriver
goals,
à vérifier l'effectivité de ces réductions d'émissions-là
we are
et de
hoping
les
to
monétiser
verify
sur
that
le
this is a
marché du
good strategy for
carbone et
reducing
de
emissions
distribuer les revenus
and also
issus
for
de la vente de ces
distributing
crédits carbone là entre
the
les
revenue
différentes
that
parties,
comes from
les
selling
différentes catégories de
carbon
parties
credits.
prenantes qui
There are several
contribuent
different categories of
à
stakeholders who are
réduire par leurs
contributing to this
activités
project
la déforestation et la
and to
dégradation
help
des forêts
reduce
et donc à
deforestation and
réduire
forest
les émissions de gaz
degradation
à effet de serre
and thereby
dans
reducing
la zone
greenhouse
du
gas
programme.
emissions in the project area.
À ce jour, donc, c'est environ 20 millions de tonnes équivalent CO2 qui ont
To
été
date,
réduites au cours de la
we have
période
reduced emissions by roughly 29
2020-2023
million
et
tons of
qui a
CO2
permis
since
donc à
2023-2024.
partir d'une approche
And
intégrée qui met au cœur du
our
dispositif les communautés
approach
locales comme acteurs clés
it focuses on involving local
de notre
actors as much
stratégie
as possible
de lutte contre la
That's a big
déforestation et la
part of our
dégradation des
strategy for
forêts, mais
fighting
aussi de
deforestation.
contribution
And
à la restauration
we are also
des paysages
helping
dégradés, au
to
reboisement et à
restore
la conservation des
degraded
forêts.
landscapes
Et un plan de partage des
and
bénéfices a
stimulate
été
reforestation.
élaboré et
Benefit sharing
50%
is
des
also very
fonds
important.
mobilisés dans le
50%
cadre de
of the
ce
funds we have
programme-là
mobilized through this
sur
program
la vente des émissions réduites
through
sont directement reversés aux
selling
communautés locales
credits
pour leur
go right to local
contribution à la
communities,
réduction des émissions de
and that
gaz à effet de serre
helps reduce
dans la
greenhouse
zone
gas
dite locale.
emissions even further in the project area.
Donc, c'est environ, à ce jour, c'est environ 20 000
Today, we
bénéficiaires,
know
donc
that we have
communautés
20,000
locales, producteurs, que ce soit
beneficiaries
des hommes,
of
des femmes,
local
des jeunes,
communities for
qui ont
women,
vu leurs revenus
youth.
augmenter de
They
plus de
have
225
improved their
dollars
revenues
en moyenne,
in 20,
et ces fonds-là
30%.
proviennent principalement
And these
de la part des
funds
bénéfices
come from the
issus de la vente des crédits
benefits
carbone, donc
from
qui
the
est alloué
carbon credits
aux différentes catégories donc, de
projects
communautés
in the
locales.
different categories
En plus
at the
donc
local level.
l'amélioration des
And we
revenus
have
de
seen
ces
also an
populations, de
improvement
ces communautés
on the
locales.
population,
On a
on the
noté
local
aussi
communities itself.
par la mise en
We
œuvre de pratiques agricoles respectueuses de
have seen
l'environnement,
the
l'augmentation
different
des
approaches to
rendements donc,
respect the
pour les
environment when
carrières
it
et
comes to the
forestières, mais aussi
agroforestry.
la restauration des forêts avec plus de
We have
60 000
seen
hectares d'arbres
restoration
forestiers
of
qui
the
ont été
forests
plantés et la
with
protection et la
a
restauration
big amount
des forêts classées et la conservation des parcs
of
nationaux en présence
protected
avec
areas
des
in the
paiements
National
directs
Park
et des renforcements de
with direct
capacité
payments
en direction des
as well as
ressources
capacity
publiques qui
building,
assurent au quotidien la gestion et la surveillance des
the
forêts
management,
et des parcs et réserves.
as well as the reserved
Alors,
parks and the protection of the
donc,
forests.
en termes donc
When it comes to
de défis, donc
the
Dania avant
challenges,
moi a présenté un certain nombre
Dani presented that,
de
Dania
défis,
presented that,
notamment
presented the
la,
challenges seen
le
in
premier
this
qu'on a,
path. So the first,
les deux plus importants, ça a été premièrement
the
d'assurer
two
la
first, the
vérification
two
exhaustive
most
sur le terrain
important
de
are
l'effectivité des
focused on
activités qui ont été conduites
the
par les communautés locales et
activities
qui ont conduit à la
carried out at
réduction
the
des
local
émissions de
level
gaz à effet de
that
serre, dans
contributed
la mesure où on
to
parle d'un
the
programme
reduction of
réductionnel sur
greenhouse
plus
gas
de
emissions.
4,6
So we
millions
have seen
d'hectares.
more
Et il
than
fallait
4,000-5,000
s'assurer donc dans le
hectares
processus de
protected. So we
MRV
have
que
seen
des activités qui ont été déclarées
different
euh,
activities
ont, existent bien
in
et
the
ont bien permis de
communities
contribuer à réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de
to
serre.
contribute to
Deuxième
this reduction.
défi, ça a été de
The second
garantir des
challenge
paiements
is
mobiles
focused on the
sécurisés et traçables
mobility
pour tous les
payments
bénéficiaires directs non
with a good
institutionnels
traceability
dans un monde rural qui est dominé par
in a rural
des bénéficiaires qui ne
context.
disposent pas toujours de documents
We
d'identité
know that some of the
nécessaires
people living there
et
don't have
ou de comptes mobile non
documentation
qui sont
or
réguliers.
a
Alors,
passport. So
les
this has
plus grandes
been a
réussites donc, qu'on
big
a pu
challenge.
noter avec la
We
mise
have
en
also
œuvre du
seen
programme, en plus donc de
some
l'implication
challenges
véritable des
on
différentes parties prenantes au projet, on est
the
arrivé
different
à
stakeholders. We have
régulariser les situations qui sont liées aux
improved
défis qui
the
viennent de
different
présenter.
situations
Et
on the
cela nous a
different
permis de
zones.
pouvoir, pour un premier
When it comes to the
paiement,
regulation, we have
reverser une partie des revenus
improved the
carbone à plus de 10 000
payments
bénéficiaires. Et l'objectif
of
à
the
terme, c'est d'atteindre
carbon
environ
credits.
80 000 bénéficiaires qui auront
So we
bénéficié
have
directement
seen
des fonds
around
issus de la vente des crédits carbone dans le cadre du
40,000
projet.
people
Alors, donc, sur ces
using part
slides-là,
of
vous
these
voyez
revenues of the carbon credits.
des femmes donc,
Here we can
qui
see
sont des acteurs de
women
mise en œuvre du projet avec
who are
différentes
key
activités qu'elles ont
actors
réalisées. Un
on a
accompagnement
daily
leur a porté
basis
depuis
in this
tout ce qui est
project.
conceptuel jusqu'aux activités de terrain, donc
They
pleine
work in
face de
different
pépinière ou
local
qu'elles soient
activities,
elles-mêmes,
activities on the ground,
on va dire, bénéficiaires en tant que
where they
propriétaires
can
de
benefit.
parcelles qui ont contribué à réduire
Some of them
les
are
actions de déforestation. Et
owning
sur ce
part of
slide-là, vous pouvez voir
territory.
des
Here
remises
you
de
can
chèques donc, qui
see
correspondent à des paiements qui ont
some
été
payments
reçus par différents
received
bénéficiaires et
by
chèques qui leur
different
ont été remis lors d'une
people
cérémonie à
Thanks to this
laquelle a
project,
participé Monsieur le ministre de
those who
l'Environnement
participated
et de la Transition écologique. Alors,
to this
pour terminer mon
program.
intervention, je
Just to
voudrais lancer
finish, I would
un
like to
appel
say or to
aux
share a call
entreprises et aux acheteurs potentiels de crédits
to the
carbone
buyers, the
pour leur
corporate
indiquer
buyers,
que si
and
vous
those
cherchez
interested in the carbon
des
credits.
crédits
If
carbone de
you're
haute
looking
intégrité
for
environnementale et
carbon
sociale,
credits
la Côte
on the
d'Ivoire est prête
social
à
and
vous offrir.
environmental
Nous
context,
disposons en ce
the Ivory
moment
Coast is
d'un peu plus
here
de
to
7
listen to
millions de
your
tonnes équivalent CO2
proposals. We
de
have
crédits
a lot of
carbone de haute
forests,
intégrité environnementale et
we
sociale qui
have
sont disponibles.
good standards,
Et
and we
avec
have a
8
good high
millions
integrity credit
supplémentaires qui seront
program, let's say.
disponibles d'ici
We
juillet à août 2026.
have
Et pour vous permettre donc d'accéder
a
à ces
program for
crédits
this
carbone-là,
year to allow
le
you to
gouvernement a
access to
mis en
this carbon
place tout un
credit
dispositif
program.
avec un bureau
So the
du marché
government has
carbone,
been
une
working on
loi
this
climat pour
to make
encadrer
it more
toutes les
accessible.
actions relatives à ce marché du carbone-là, mais aussi un registre carbone et tout ceci afin d'éviter
And
tout potentiel double comptage. Donc, nos réductions d'émissions
yeah, so
sont vérifiées
our
et
reductions
notre
has
engagement est de
been
long terme. Donc, si
increasing,
vous
and the engagement
investissez ou
are
achetez
more
des crédits
focused
carbone
in
en
the long
Côte
term.
d'Ivoire,
So if
vous
you're interested
contribuez
in
à la
the
protection du plus grand
credit,
massif
in the carbon credits
forestier
in
primaire
Ivory
d'Afrique de
Coast,
l'Ouest, donc le parc
you'll
national du
be
Taï, mais aussi
helping,
vous soutenez
contributing
les chaînes de valeur
to
durables,
preserve
notamment dans le
the
cacao,
Taï
et vous
National
contribuez
Park
donc à générer
and
un
the
impact
cacao
réel sur le
production,
climat
as
et les
well
communautés
as
locales en Côte d'Ivoire.
the positive impact on
Je
the
vous remercie, je
climate
terminerai
and
par
on the
cela
people
et
living in the
je reste
communities in Ivory
disponible
Coast.
lors
Thank
de
you
vos
very much.
échanges pour répondre
And
à
I'm
d'éventuelles
here
questions.
to listen to any comments or
C'est à nous qui te
questions.
remercions, Eric. Je
Thank
pense
you.
que cette présentation
Thank you
était
very much,
excellente.
Eric. I
Je
think
pense
this
que
presentation was
c'est une
wonderful.
histoire qui inspire
Yeah, this is a story that
et le modèle de
inspire
paiement que vous avez monté dans le
Africa
cadre de ce
and
programme est un
other
modèle qui, je
models,
pense, va
right? Your
inspirer
program, your model
beaucoup de
can
pays. Et donc,
inspire,
je pense que c'est un
encourage
programme
other
qu'on nomme vraiment en détail
people
pour bien
interesting
comprendre comment est-ce que ces
to
paiements arrivent auprès des
engage.
communautés. C'est pour cela
So
que
this is key
je
to
vais demander
understand
au
how
docteur
we
Ngolo,
can achieve
directeur
these
exécutif de
results,
la
right?
FPRCI, donc
I
la
would like
Fondation pour le
to
parc de réserve de Côte
pass the
d'Ivoire,
floor
de
to
nous aider
our colleague from Côte
davantage comprendre comment est-ce
d'Ivoire,
que,
who will
n'est-ce pas, les
help
paiements
us to
arrivent, n'est-ce
understand
pas,
Dr.
auprès des
Faningolo,
communautés. Donc, docteur Ngolo,
Executive
avec votre
Director
permission, si vous
of the
pouvez encore
Foundation for the
revenir
Parks and
sur les
Reserves
éléments
of Côte d'Ivoire.
du montage,
Could
n'est-ce
you
pas, du
please
plan
share a little bit
de partage de bénéfices
more
du programme, je
on
pense
the
qu'on serait
program
très ravis.
and
Très bien, merci
the
beaucoup.
sharing?
Merci,
Yeah,
merci
thank
beaucoup
you.
de me donner la parole.
Thank you very much for
Alors, Dania et
giving me
Eric
the floor.
ont bien planté le décor.
Of
Alors, je
course,
rappelle que
Dania and
dans le
Eric,
cas
they
du produit de
shared
paiement
about the
des
program.
réductions
So
d'émissions, la
when
Fondation
it
pour le
comes
parc et
to the
réserve de Côte d'Ivoire a été donc
program and the
désignée
payments
pour assurer la gestion
based on the
fiduciaire,
results,
c'est-à-dire tout le
it
flux
is
financier de
important
la
to take into
contribution.
account
Alors,
the
effectivement, dans le
financing
cas
part.
du prêt,
When
les
it
défis
comes to
étaient
the
tels qu'il s'agissait
challenges,
donc de
we
payer
see that
les populations rurales et qui ne sont
there
pas
is
habituées aux banques. Et il a
the
fallu donc
population who
innover. C'est
is
pour cela
not
que nous avons
used
opté
to,
pour
so the
le
local communities, for
paiement
instance,
par
who are not
livraison.
used to
Alors,
the government
cette slide
system, right?
pour
Because
justement
they have their
montrer
own
un peu le
systems.
flux. Une fois
Then
les
how can we
crédits
increase
vérifiés,
the
payés par la
revenues?
Banque mondiale
Once we
FCPF,
are paid
les fonds
by the
arrivent en
World
Côte
Bank,
d'Ivoire sur le compte
for
de la
instance,
Fondation, le compte de
the
distribution.
payment
Et je
arrives
rappelle
to
que nous
Côte
avons pris
d'Ivoire.
soin donc d'ouvrir un compte
So we
de
had
fonds de
to open
dotation qui est donc
an
logé
account
au niveau de la FPCI UK,
in
un
the
fonds de 5%. Et le reste, c'est-à-dire 95%,
FPCI.
fait l'objet donc de distribution.
So
Alors,
we have
les
different
différents acteurs sont
percentages.
connus et
5%
je vais
for
donc
the com
insister
for
sur la méthode de
the account
distribution.
and
Alors, en gros, nous avons deux types de
92%,
bénéficiaires. Nous avons
0.5
des
for the
bénéficiaires
other
directs
account,
et les bénéficiaires indirects.
FPRCI. So we have
Les
direct
bénéficiaires directs,
beneficiaries
c'est
and
pour cela, ce
indirect
sont des acteurs
beneficiaries.
qui, par leurs
The,
actions de conservation, de
the direct
reboisement,
beneficiaries are those focused
d'agroforesterie, ont
on
donc contribué à la
the
génération de crédits carbone. Ce sont eux-là qu'on appelle bénéficiaires
agroforestry
directs. Et là
approach.
encore, il y a deux sous-groupes.
Those are
Un
the
sous-groupe
active beneficiaries. And
constitué
then we
donc de
have a
bénéficiaires
subgroup
directs
focused on
institutionnels
direct institutional beneficiaries. We have entities, formal entities in charge of the different network in Côte d'Ivoire. And then we have the mobility subgroup. This project covers the National Park of Taï and around 23 forests. This is part of the subgroup focused on the population with an agroforestry approach. So this is very important for this project. And then we have the indirect beneficiaries. Those are actors who facilitate the project and work on how to carry out the project in a proper manner. Here, it is very important to bear in mind that the result-based payment has had some challenges. We have seen a call for the different from the different territories. So we see the different beneficiaries who are registered in the platform. There is the coordination who allow us to identify the different beneficiaries who registered and comply with all the requirements. So there are different steps to identify the different beneficiaries and the proper outcome achieved in the territory. So for this verification step, there is a list of requirements. When it comes to the beneficiaries paid by global money, this list is sent to 3 different companies. We work with 3 companies in Côte d'Ivoire. So we do the compliance test so that we see if the person can have access or not to these benefits. So they have to comply with the requirements before. This is the assessment part, and then we keep working on the list and sharing it with the foundation. Who will be more focusing on the payment. We compare the list received with the list sent to the project coordinator. And we select the final list of people. So there are some people who could get access to the 2 payments, or not, depending on the requirements. So we have this process. Once we have a list, we send it to the director, who will say yes or no to the approval of the payment. And we'll specify the amount. So we make sure that we are not paying double. So there is a robust assessment process. So we have paid around 22,000 beneficiaries and around 23,000 candidates were received
Alors, bien évidemment,
participated.
les 8% restants,
So
vous
the
allez me dire, mais qu'est-ce que deviennent les
pending
8%? Eh bien,
8%
bon, on a relevé souvent des bénéficiaires qui sont insuffisamment identifiés pour
will
répondre à tous les critères donc,
be
des compagnies
left
de téléphone
for
mobile. Et là, ça
some
dit
of
que
the
ce cas
beneficiaries who
fera donc
have
l'objet d'un
been
traitement
in the
ultérieur
pending
où
list.
le bénéficiaire sera donc amené à aller se faire identifier
The
correctement auprès de
beneficiaries are asked to
cette
properly
compagnie.
identify
Et ensuite, nous
themselves,
reprendrons le paiement pour
and
ces 8%.
then that's when we can cover the last remaining 8% who are not
excellent.
initially approved
Alors,
once they
maintenant,
have
nous allons
submitted more
parler
information.
d'un cas spécifique sur
And if I can give
termes
you one
donc
specific
d'utilisation des fonds. Nous
example
avons un cas qui
in
mérite
terms of
d'être
how we use the
signalé.
funds
C'est le
we
regroupement donc de
get,
3 villages
well, I can tell you
qui ont
about
pu
3
donc
villages
préserver
that were able
une
to work
forêt de près de
together
1000 hectares.
to
Et
preserve a
pour
1,000-hectare forest.
justement pour ces villages-là, un
And
montant important
in
conséquent
those
doit
villages,
être reversé. Et
we
pour
had to
cela, donc,
make a
vu
fairly
qu'il
large
s'agit
amount of payments
des populations, nous avons
directly to
décidé
the
donc
population because of this effort.
d'investir dans 3 grands projets
And so we invested in
générateurs donc
3
de revenus.
major
Il s'agit
projects,
donc de la
income-generating
pisciculture, de la
projects,
porciculture
fish
et de
cultivation,
l'agriculture.
and
Alors, ces
agriculture,
projets
so
font
food
l'objet
production
de
projects.
suivi. Nous
We
allons
also
donc
followed
les
up on these
accompagner.
projects,
Et
supported
je pense que
them
c'est quelque chose
through
de
the
très significatif
implementation,
qui aura donc un impact positif.
and
Et
saw that there was a
si,
significant positive
en termes
impact
donc
in these villages.
donc d'anecdotes, nous recevons souvent des appels pour des populations qui disent que s'ils savaient
We also
que ça allait être une
often
réalité,
hear
le
from
paiement,
populations
eh bien,
that tell
ils
us
planteraient plus d'arbres. Donc, je crois qu'il y a vraiment un engouement
that they're
qui est
seeing what
donc
is
à saluer
the good that's being
au
done for
niveau donc
neighboring communities and they
des
want to get
populations.
involved.
Non,
Voilà,
tout à fait.
voilà. Okay.
Non, tout à fait. Merci beaucoup, Dr. Ngolo.
Thank
Je
you
pense que,
very much,
comme je l'ai dit
Dr.
tout à
Ngolo.
l'heure, c'est une histoire qui est assez particulière à la Côte d'Ivoire.
I think
Ce
that Cote
schéma de
d'Ivoire is
paiement
a
qui
particular
permet
example
que les communautés puissent bénéficier directement
because
via ces
many of the
paiements
communities were
mobiles,
able to
c'est une histoire qui est assez
directly
unique à la Côte
benefit from
d'Ivoire,
these
mais
payments.
qui aussi peut inspirer ou qui va inspirer
And I think that your
d'autres pays,
example
n'est-ce pas,
can inspire other
dans la
countries
région. Et donc,
in the
je pense
region.
que ce serait aussi important
I
d'écouter
think it's also important
aussi
now
la voix qui vient
to
directement
hear a
d'une
voice
communauté. Nous avons Mama
directly from
Rose
a
Aou qui
community.
nous
So we
rejoint
have
du
Rose
village
Aou with
Akagi.
us
Mama
from
Rose,
the
s'il te
village of
plaît,
Akagi.
Eric, Kona et puis le
Rose,
docteur Fanny nous ont parlé de belles
Dr.
histoires de
Fanny
comment
and Eric
l'argent arrive, mais
told
je pense
us
que ce
about
serait
how the
important
money
d'écouter
gets to Cote d'Ivoire, but
venant
I'm wondering if you could tell us
de ta
more
voix, comment
about
est-ce que effectivement toi, en tant que président
how
de
you,
l'association des
as the
femmes
president
qui
of a
bénéficient
Village
de ce
Women's
programme,
Association,
mais aussi
benefit from this program,
comment est-ce que vous
and
êtes impliqué dans les différentes
how are you
activités.
involved in
Mama
these
Rose,
various
à
activities?
toi.
Rose, over to you.
Ok, merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much.
Bon, j'ai entendu parler du projet. Maintenant, c'est arrivé chez nous.
So when the project
C'est
came
les gens
to where I'm from,
d'Anadé et puis les gens de... comment on appelle? Voilà, les gens de Haut-Forêt, là, c'est eux qui ont envoyé. Maintenant, ils m'ont encouragé de
representatives
planter que
came
c'est
to our
bon.
village and
Ils ont
they
parlé du
encouraged us to
changement
plant
climatique.
trees.
Voilà,
We
ils
talked
m'ont dit
about
que non, si on plante
climate
des
change
cacaoyers, ça permet le cacao
and also
bien
about how
résister
planting
parce que le soleil est trop.
forests would
Donc, quand
help
ils ont dit
the
ça,
cocoa
ça m'a
trees grow
encouragé.
better.
Et
So that
j'ai
really encouraged us. So I
Là que j'ai
started
planté le
planting
bois, j'ai vu
trees
que vraiment c'est bon.
and I saw the positive effect right away.
Ok. Non, excellent. Et donc
Wonderful.
maintenant, quand tu as planté,
And when you
j'imagine
started
tu as
planting
déjà reçu des
trees,
paiements.
I
Comment
imagine
est-ce
you
que
were
tu
already
as utilisé
receiving
ces
payments,
paiements?
but how did you use that
Bon,
money?
déjà, moi, je suis commerçante.
I
Donc, quand j'ai reçu cet argent,
have a
j'ai fait pour
business
augmenter ma capitale.
and I was able
Donc,
to use
parce
the
que
money
dans
as
mon
capital to
commerce,
develop my business,
D'accord,
selling
excellent.
things. I have a
Et
small
donc,
shop.
ici,
Wonderful.
dans cet appel, on a
And
plusieurs
on this
entreprises
call, we have several
qui
different
aimeraient
companies
encore avoir de
represented
plus de
here
financement
who
comme
would
celui que
like
tu as reçu.
to
Qu'est-ce que tu
increase the
dirais à
number
ces
of
compagnies-là?
payments like the payments you received. What would you have to say to such companies?
j'aimerais que l'argent que vous nous envoyez là,
I hope that
si c'est un peu beaucoup, plus que ce qu'on nous a envoyé au début, j'allais faire beaucoup de choses avec. Parce que j'ai
just know
beaucoup de
that if you send
projets
us money, we have a
à
lot
mettre en
of things we're
place.
ready to do with it. We have a lot of projects that are ready to go and ready to
Excellent.
finance if
Agrandir
you
ma
can send us
boutique.
the financing.
Voilà, faire beaucoup de
It
choses
won't go
avec.
to waste. It will be used well to
Oh,
improve
excellent. Non, merci
uh,
beaucoup, Mama
Mes
Rose.
frères
the
aussi qui
lives of the people
sont
living
à
here.
Kadji,
And so,
pour
yes,
nous
thank you very
aider
much from
et les
Gabiaji.
encourager aussi à planter le bois.
And if you can help finance our
Excellent.
projects, you'll be helping the
Non,
local
je pense que
population and help us with our reforestation
c'est très
efforts.
bien
Wonderful. It's great to hear this directly from you, Ms. Rose. As I said, there are many companies that are interested in Côte d'Ivoire and who want to help people like you. You're doing such a good job on the ground, planting trees. And so I would like to applaud all the efforts you already have in progress, and I hope that you'll be able to continue with this important work on the ground. I will now switch into English, so please check your interpretation settings.
Jamie, you just heard from directly from communities, people like Mama Rose, who is at the front line of tackling deforestation. So as a company, when you hear people like Mama Rose, stories that come from the field in Côte d'Ivoire, what has made you think about Côte d'Ivoire, and what has driven you to support Côte d'Ivoire?
Well, it was great to hear from Rose, and stories like that make this really real for us. And a lot of this can be abstract, but to see it on the ground and to see the people whose lives it's affecting is really incredible. But taking a step back, just to reemphasize why we're here in the first place, and just how critical tackling deforestation is to the entire global climate agenda. Every IPCC pathway to the global temperature targets relies on effectively halting deforestation by 2030. And what that means is that the pace of decarbonization in hard to abate sectors laid out in those pathways, whether it's aviation, concrete, steel, agriculture, you name it, is only adequate if we halt deforestation in the coming years. And at some point, forests are going to reach a tipping point and start to die off on their own. And we're already starting to see signs of that. So let there be no doubt that for companies listening today, that this work is part and parcel of science-based action on climate. It's right at the top of the list. And if it's not, nothing else that we're doing is going to be adequate. So we need a theory of change and a strategy that can actually address deforestation at scale. And we came to a point of view very early on in our journey as Amazon on this, that there's really no end game on deforestation without strong government policy that can address the drivers of deforestation and do so together with local communities and empower them to advance their livelihoods while leaving the forest intact. And that's really what this program in Côte d'Ivoire is really about. What we've learned through our early efforts in the LEAF Coalition is that it takes years and years for governments to build these kinds of programs, especially those that are working effectively with local communities, and to begin to produce results. And so we're really benefiting immensely from the World Bank's early and very thoughtful investments through the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility to kickstart jurisdictional REDD. And I mean, the best JRED programs that we've seen around the world are really those that have benefited from FCPF investment. And I'm proud that our investment is going to help enable this program to continue and to transition and thrive under the Our Trees framework going forward.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Well, maybe one last question to you, Jimmy. When you are looking to invest in a country, what are the very specific things that you're looking for in terms of, due diligence? I think it would be really important for a country like Côte d'Ivoire to really hear what they've already, learned over the past month, but also for other countries that are around to also hear your perspective in terms of what are the specific things that you're looking for before investing.
I'd say there's three things. We want to understand how the program functions. We want to believe the theory of change. We want to believe that an investment in this program is actually going to add up and be effective long-term in just shifting the way that land is managed and the way that communities are interacting with the land in these places. And what I love about this program is it's a deforestation reduction program, but there's a significant focus on establishing agroforestry, which is a really special intervention where it combines carbon sequestration and the restoration of biodiversity in these ecosystems with income generation and diversification of income, and in many cases, the boosting of local livelihoods. And here in Côte d'Ivoire, the world's largest cocoa exporter, this is just a very important type of flavor of intervention. And Cote d'Ivoire has also really innovated in its benefits distribution with direct mobile payments to households. That's a novel approach, not easy to pull off. I think it's a really important experiment as we try to figure out how best to operationalize and scale JRED around the world. So that's really quite significant on the like, can this program be effective? Is this worth an investment to try to push this type of strategy and approach? Then there's the carbon credit quality side of things. We spent a lot of time on diligence at Amazon. I would say that the single biggest step we can take on quality in the deforestation space is just the shift from a project-based kind of patchwork approach that's too often disconnected from government policy and really can't address the drivers of deforestation, toward a wall-to-wall governance and accounting based approach backed by policy, integrated with community-led solutions. That's what we see here. There's also a matter of just, are we properly accounting for what's happening in the forest? Government forest monitoring systems are not always, the most sophisticated. There's a lot of growth to be had there. We work with Sea Trees, an NGO led by a NASA JPL scientist, Hassan Sachi, to independently validate the government's forest monitoring and the carbon claims associated with that. And then the third piece is social diligence. And this is really, really important. The social dimension of just community interactions with forests and forest governance are really critical, even just for the effectiveness of these interventions over time and their sustainability, but also just for the equitability and the justice of these programs. We spent a lot of time looking at this. We need to see extensive consultation with local communities. We need to see the local communities have an equitable stake in the program's proceeds, that the program itself is not negatively impacting communities. This should be an opportunity for livelihoods and for development. And we really need to see that the government has a sensitivity to ensuring that social safeguards are not just there on paper, but are working in practice and addressing issues as they arise. Of course, the issues will arise. So we've been through that process exhaustively, and excited to be supporting this program.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much, Jimmy. And yeah, thank you so much to all our panelists for a great insight about the program. I mean the standard that has supported the program, but also the program itself. Very interesting stories from the ground, including how communities are really leveraging the payment that they are receiving from the program to improve their livelihoods. But also, it was also really great to hear from you, Jamie, in terms of the thought process that goes into a company like Amazon, before engaging into a country like Cote d'Ivoire. So, with that being said, I think I'll invite all our participants, to use the Q&A function, to ask any question that you have in mind. I think our panelists are here, available, to provide you with insight about what they're actually doing. I think we have a few questions that have come up. Jamie, I think this one was to you. Okay, so are there any level effects of the effectiveness of this success story with the access of cocoa in regulated international markets? Did you identify any effectiveness in terms of compliance with the EUDR, with the Lacey Act? Jamie, you want to take that one on?
Well, so Amazon's participation in this program is a voluntary initiative as part and parcel of our commitment to the climate pledge, which is our net zero commitment by 2040, as well as our sustainability exchange and our carbon credit service, which allows our value chain partners to simply access credits from our portfolio so that they can make progress to net zero while keeping their own teams focused on decarbonization. I will say the FCPF program was just recognized by ICAO for eligibility for CORSIA's phase 1. So it's conceivable that these credits can be used for compliance in that program. I think it's also just a general validation of the quality and the technical validity of of this program. I also think that there's, just because of the question asked about EUDR and LACIAC, I think that companies that source commodities from Cote d'Ivoire that may or may not be engaged in using carbon credits outside of their value chain, that's a step that not every company has yet taken, but will need to in future. This can be a very powerful strategy for addressing deforestation emissions in your supply chain. And potentially a more powerful strategy than traceability and getting a deforestation-free supply chain, which can help you with reputational risk, but not necessarily actually address deforestation on the landscape. So I think any commodity company sourcing from this region should really take a look at this from that angle.
No, excellent. No, thanks. Thanks, Jamie. So I think I would love, to give, closing remarks, but I just remind myself that we still have that video from the Minister of Environment, which I think will make, better justice when it comes to closing remarks about Côte d'Ivoire. So, colleagues, if we can have the video back, I think that will be super. Thanks.
Les priorités de la Côte d'Ivoire en matière de protection des forêts sont de plusieurs ordres. La première priorité consiste effectivement à s'engager dans un processus de reforestation. Vous savez que notre pays a perdu depuis les indépendances, à dire près de 80% effectivement de son couvert forestier. Donc nous sommes dans une dynamique effectivement d'arrêter ce processus de déforestation, mais surtout d'inverser la tendance de la déforestation. Et puis, naturellement, nous avions à l'époque des pratiques agricoles pour le moins, on va dire, non durables. Donc, cette fois-ci, nous essayons de voir dans quelle mesure nous pouvons lutter contre l'agriculture, on va dire, extensive. Et comme on vous disait tantôt, nous avons effectivement à peu près 10 à 11% de couverts forestiers dans notre pays. L'objectif, c'est d'ici quelques années arriver quand même à couvrir 20% de notre territoire doit être effectivement couvert par la forêt. Et nous acheminons naturellement dans un processus de communication, de sensibilisation, de plaidoyer vis-à-vis des populations. Essayer d'atteindre au moins 60% des Ivoiriens et de tous ceux qui nous font l'amitié de venir vivre ici avec nous en Côte d'Ivoire pour que je sois sensibilisé sur les problèmes de déforestation. Pour les femmes et les groupes marginalisés ou bien vulnérables, mais il est valable aussi pour l'ensemble des Ivoiriens qui s'investissent dans la préservation des forêts et la mise en valeur de nos écosystèmes forestiers. Vous n'êtes pas sans ignorer que durant les 2-3 dernières années, il y a quand même eu 20 000 de nos compatriotes qui ont bénéficié de financement de l'ordre de 5 millions de dollars. Et ça, c'est une réalité. Cet argent-là a été transféré grâce aux applications de mobile money que vous connaissez. Et toutes ces 20 000 personnes l'ont reçu sur leur téléphone, sur leur compte de mobile money, des ressources financières, effectivement, qui leur permettraient d'améliorer leur quotidien. Maintenant, sur les femmes et les personnes vulnérables, dans nos contrées, les femmes sont à la base, au début. C'est l'alpha du processus de reforestation. Ce sont celles-là même qui sont dans les champs. Ce sont celles-là même qui vont chercher les pépinières. Et naturellement, quand il s'agit de partager les résultats, enfin les revenus des crédits carbone, elles sont rémunérées au même titre que les hommes. Et c'est pour ça que vous allez observer que pour $1 vendu sur le marché des crédits carbone, il y a la moitié qui va effectivement aux communautés, que ce soit les hommes, que ce soit les femmes, mais que ce soit les communautés des populations vulnérables. C'est dans ce contexte-là que nous sollicitons et nous pensons que les investissements étrangers, les financements internationaux sont nécessaires pour nous aider dans notre démarche là justement devront contribuer à inverser la tendance en matière de déforestation. Donc la réponse à votre question, c'est parce que les ressources domestiques nationales ne suffisent pas. Et surtout que la problématique est particulièrement importante parce que les forêts plus séparément ne peuvent pas avoir de signification. Dans le contexte de la Côte d'Ivoire, les forêts sont très fortement corrélées avec le processus de développement socio-économique en cours dans notre pays. Nous pensons que les financements internationaux, notamment dans le cadre de la génération et la vente de crédits carbone seraient des ressources financières additionnelles et qui en général qui viennent de la finance internationale pour aider à ce processus-là de reforestation dans notre pays. Vous n'êtes pas sans ignorer que nous avons généré de la finance carbone, des crédits carbone qui ont été vendus sur le marché pour à peu près l'équivalent de 20 millions de dollars, ce qui n'aurait pas été possible sans le concours de la finance internationale, des investissements internationaux. La Côte d'Ivoire a posé les bases, les fondements pour être la place par excellence en Afrique de l'Ouest, en Afrique centrale, en Afrique du Nord, où le débat et l'action sur le financement climatique va s'opérer. Et donc, c'est pour cette raison-là que nous invitons tous les bailleurs de fonds, tous les partenaires internationaux impliqués dans ce débat-là à venir investir en Côte d'Ivoire parce que c'est la place centrale du financement climatique en Afrique. To the international organizations and partners, Côte d'Ivoire has the following message. There is a new down in the climate finance sector in Africa. Welcome to Côte d'Ivoire, which is not only the country of soccer and chocolate, it is also the country of climate finance.
Based on those remarks, I think I will just hand over to my colleague Eduna, to close this session. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eric. And certainly a fantastic way to wrap up the panel for the words from Minister Bamba there. And a big thanks to his time, as well as the time of our esteemed panel today. Really appreciate the content and breadth and depth of work that's been showcased today. And I think at Emergent, we hope that you're as inspired and motivated as we are for action. The opportunity here to support the Côte d'Ivoire's efforts is real and active now. These emissions reductions and removals credits are available for companies that are looking to source credits as part of their climate solutions and supportive supply chain efforts, as Jamie articulated, and also just to contribute to the scaled impact for both nature, climate, but importantly, the people that are at the crux of this work that benefits all of us. So it's been a great panel today. The conversation does not stop here. Please feel free to reach out directly if you're interested to find out more. As you will have heard, there's a wealth of expertise and content to dig into. Just a flag that we do plan to hold in-person sessions at both London Climate Action Week in June and later in the year at New York Climate Week, COP17, the Biodiversity COP, and the Climate COP 31. So lots of opportunities to connect, to go deeper into this work and ultimately play a key role in supporting Côte d'Ivoire's leadership role in driving down deforestation and supporting our climate and nature goals alongside the World Bank and other partners. So just please join us in thanking the group on the line today, the amazing achievements of Côte d'Ivoire. And thank you again for your time. All the best from the Emergent team, and please do reach out. And I apologize, my French is not up to scratch, but merci beaucoup, and thanks very much.